show, and we're doing it. Welcome to the Steamboat Comedy Podcast, everybody. This is Kyle Ruff with you again. To my left is Mr. Jared Morrill.
What's going on?
And joining us is our good buddy. Are you booing yourself? Or
No, I was booing everybody that came before me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Me. No, you can applaud for me. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah.
And joining us
Are you shill?
is...
Dance puppet.
Whatever you say, Mr. David. Korey David is joining us, everybody. Say hello,
Hello.
Korey.
Hello, how are you? Dude, last night was a lot of fun. We had a great show.
Yes, last night was a blast. So we just did a show, a little comedy show, the Winter Welcome Comedy Show. We called it at Schmickadee's downtown. Awesome turnout. Thank you to everybody who came out. We had a great time. And Korey and our buddy Mark Masters, also both from Denver, came up to join us and knocked it out of the park.
Dude, it was really worth the trip. I mean, I love this town in general. I like the fact that it's got its own identity and it's still got like this touch of like kind of old west feel. So the resort's fun, and the fact that you guys are running comedy stuff up here is great. Yeah, I think just like having great venues that are willing to be on your side and let you do what you want to do, and then you guys taking the promotion end, and getting good comics in. Well, getting good comics in here is going to be the biggest thing.
For sure.
Like not to say that like the local scene isn't like doing things and there's not good comics here, but I think it's a twofold deal. Like you don't want to like burn people out on just like what the local scene is doing.
Right.
So if you can counter that with, let's give the local talent local talent an opportunity to thrive and give them like live shows, but then also bring in some like heaters from Fort Collins and Denver to make this like a viable deal where people are like, yeah, this is a great show.
Yeah.
This is just a fantastic show.
Oh yeah, because we got a lot of good people here, but we're all real green. You know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah, big time.
We're doing this on our own, and a lot of people who are like staples in our comedy community have done actual comedy as many times as a lot of people do in a week in Denver.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Are you recording now?
We are recording.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Because anybody that didn't hear this before was we thought we were recording for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we totally.
There was a lot
botched
of
it.
racial slurs, a lot of f-bombs.
It was real graphic.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun than this is right now. But you know what? You're never gonna hear it.
Well, there's always time to throw in more racial slurs.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. We've got plenty of time.
It's what we live for.
All right, you kikes. So.
Are there any slurs that you can say about Irish people that they get really bent out of shape about?
Mick people.
Yeah, but that's like, I've never heard anybody get like bent out of shape about a Mick.
Go to South Boston.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
I believe
Yeah?
it.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen bar fights happen over a Mick drop?
Yeah, at the Banshee in fucking Dorchester.
Oh, the Banshee. Yeah,
Dude,
I've been there.
the Banshee. That.
What's the place that Whitey used to hang out at in
Street
Southie? Yeah, that place. Yeah, I've been there before. It's a weird breed. I don't think I could ever be attracted to a woman with like a thick Southie accent.
I'm a chick walking up to you going, geez, I haven't seen you since I seen you.
Let me suck your cock.
Let me see that cock. What do you got in your pants,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, throw a Dunkaccino on there. Give it hell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
that'd
not
be weird,
attractive.
dude.
Yes.
I've never dated any kind of an accent.
You've never dated an
I've
accent?
never dated a single accent.
Yeah.
No,
Not even one accent.
no, just Midwest.
Really
So no
boring Midwest white girls.
No
who, like-
Minnesota?
I guess I was hooking up with a Minnesotan, but it wasn't a super thick Minnesotan accent, just a hint of Minnesotan.
Just a touch of
Oh,
the
yeah.
downs.
Yeah, just a touch of the downs. That's how I get them, baby. Those downs girls,
Yeah, that's fair.
they're easy.
Dated a girl from Spain. I think I heard every third word she said. And some of them had a lisp on them.
I've never heard.
Language is weird.
Barcelona.
Language isn't necessary.
Yeah, right.
It's mostly just it's the sounds that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all intention.
We all, know where to stick it. And that's the universal language of love.
I think that sounds like rape, Kyle. That sounds like
No. No. Love is in the butthole.
I think that's the
Man,
prostate.
you guys have been living in this fucking
Oh, no,
mountain town
yeah,
for
my-
like
my
too goddamn
butthole.
long. Yeah, this is what hillbillies talk about. Like this is a hillbilly ass podcast.
There's some
Oh,
deliverance fucking lovemaking.
Have you seen this podcast studio?
Love is through the asshole. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. the way to a man's heart.
Yeah,
Right through the prostate.
Mormons do that where they skirt having like the admittance of having sexual intercourse by either doing anal or they have this thing called the Provost soak.
Oh,
So
yes.
I was about
yes.
to ask
People
you about
soak.
that.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
soak. All right, so I'm Mormon for everybody else that doesn't know that. Yeah,
Mm.
because nobody else here would know that.
Wait, hold on. Are you like still Mormon?
No.
Or you were
I'm
raised
still
Mormon?
I'm still in the church registry. Like I didn't like call them and be like, "Hey, take me out of it."
Okay.
I want off the Mormon list, please.
Until
thank
they
you.
hear this.
Yeah, no, they like to pat the stats. You know, you want to keep the numbers high.
Of course.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Naturally.
that's fair. So I was raised Mormon. I was never really on board. My parents jumped around from like different religions when we were kids, and my mom stuck with like the Mormon religion when we were like 12 or whatever. Actually, probably a little earlier than that. But I was never really on board, and we were the only Mormons in our school. So it was never really like that big of a thing. But
It's interesting because we know other people who are Mormons, but they're from like Utah and shit.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting hearing from you, who is a Mormon from a super not Mormon place.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. So the church was started in upstate New York, and that's where I'm from. And it's so they got kicked out of 5 different states before they wound up in Utah. So that's
Really?
kind of like if you
Wow.
got kicked out of every bar in your hometown, and then eventually you were like, "We're gonna start our own bar." You know? They literally got chased out of everywhere. They got like tarred and remember when tarred and feather was? You don't. None of us remember when
well, yeah.
tarred and feathered was a thing.
Tarred and feathered.
Could you
Hard
imagine
and
that
feathered.
happening
Do you know
now?
what that means?
Yeah.
So, like, people-
I'm just thinking about it the wrong way.
Oh, like a tard.
Yes. Like, you hit him so hard he went stupid and you throw feathers at him. Yeah, we tarred and feathered him.
Shit, man.
I don't know.
I've never even thought of that.
I think he's trying to suck the sap out of that tree now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because there's no differentiation in how you enunciate that word. It's
Yeah.
just how
No,
it's
tarred.
spelled, right? Yeah. There's
Tarred.
nothing wrong with what we're saying.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the
he
way
was-
I said it was
Yeah,
wrong.
he was retarded and feathered.
He was
Yeah,
retarded.
I heard you. I
he
heard
was
you loud and
tarred,
clear.
and then they did it again. He was retard.
I heard you loud and clear.
My dad would always say that, and it like sounds funny because there's feathers. But then I watched the John Adams miniseries, and they actually tar and feather this guy,
Yeah.
and it's like really
Horrifying?
brutal.
Yeah.
It's like a really
it's
horrific
terrible.
way to die.
Everything about it is terrible. What part of you thought that it was fine
Oh,
before
it
that?
just sounds silly. Like you get
It
like
is.
tar on
yeah.
your arm.
Yes, yeah, because you saw pictures, like little 4x4 pictures in your textbooks when you were a kid
Right,
about some
of-
guy
of
basically
some
running around in a fucking chicken suit.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And you're just like, hey, that doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah. Oh, what a silly
Hot
thing to do.
tar. Like
Yeah.
they make streets out of that.
Like you
know,
die
and then they just
after you
pour
get
it-
tarred and feathered.
Oh.
Yeah. I was going to say, like,
There's no coming back from getting tarred and feathered.
yeah.
Would you rather be canceled or tarred and feathered? Would you rather be culture canceled or tarred and feathered?
See, I don't know how you thought that was all fun. Like,
Emphasis on the tarred.
big tarred.
Big
well, no,
time
like,
tarred.
part of my family, like, owns a paving company. So,
Oh shit, son! That's like owning a plantation back in the
Yeah.
1800s.
yeah. Killed a lot
Your
of
whole family tarred a lot
Yeah,
of
we're at-
people.
We're
We're-
gonna get tar
we're-
reparations from your family.
people. Well, we're Italian, so we quote unquote tarred streets. You know, I think Hoffa's buried under
yeah,
West
so
Central
yeah,
and
so
Natick.
they say, yeah, you
Yeah.
tarred streets, yeah, you probably tarred.
You tarred street.
Yeah, they're all windy and shit.
Yeah, if you had to tar something again, would you have to retard it? Yeah,
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to
that's
retard the street.
yeah, that's good.
Double
and,
tarred.
and my anger because I had to retard it.
Please retard your anger. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Anyways, we got
What
way
the
off
fuck
hand.
were we talking about?
Oh, we're
before
talking
we
about
got
you
on
being
that one?
Mormon.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, that's pretty retarded. So,
Transition.
yeah, so it's not that much different than like other religions, you know, like the origin story of it.
I mean, they're all wacky if you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
origin story of it basically sounds like every drug trip that I've ever been on, you know. And I was like, yeah, I've found God in the middle of a forest too. Like that totally checks out. So he was just like really good at convincing people that.
Yeah, he was just a really good con artist.
yeah.
Or at least the most recent one.
But there were a lot. There was like I think. At that time, I forget what it was called. It was like an era, and it was an era of time in U.S. history, and then also in this region of New York, it also had like a name that's escaping me right now. But there was like 300 new religions that started in that same like decade,
Wow.
in that same like 100-mile proximity.
And that's the one that made it was
yeah,
Mormonism?
yeah. Which is
Interesting.
basically like that was the one that people got on board with, and then that was the one that had the biggest following. And the reason it kind of kept going was because America was so new at that point, right? So they
Right.
wind up in Utah, and there's nobody there except for like Native American tribes, right? So when the federal government is like ready to make Utah a state, the Mormons are like, well, that's peachy. We're already here. We can do that for you, right? And then the government said, well, the only way we're going to let you do that is if you outlaw polygamy. So then the
Ooh.
leader of the church, like literally the next day, is like, hey, everybody, got a call from the big guy. And they're like, George Washington? No, the other one. And and we can't do the polygamy thing like anymore. And then
They're like,
half of the people
"Boo!"
were like, that's the only reason we're here.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, right.
and they all left. So that's why you have really weird it's not even that weird. It was just part of the church. It's weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but they have like colonies like in Mexico, and they have
Yeah.
Yes.
fringe
Well, that's
colonies in
Mitt
Arizona.
Romney's family.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
Mitt,
moved
Mitt
to
Romney's
Mexico to
family
that.
is from like an armed compound in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
They
I
had
didn't
them
know that till like
crazy.
a month ago.
Really?
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, it's not like a common knowledge.
Yeah.
like,
No, I
thing.
know,
I
but,
would.
like-
I don't beat yourself up about it. I literally found out last week that you can't recycle peanut butter jars unless you rinse them.
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
yeah, that's a real thing. And I've done that. So I've told that joke. All right. So the joke essentially, it's a new bit. It's as smart as the gist of it is as smart as I think I am, I'm learning new stuff all the time. Right. And one of those things is that I'm 31 years old and I just found out that you have to rinse out peanut butter jars like before you recycle them, which means I've recycled thousands of peanut butter jars with peanut butter inside, and they were not recycled.
And they were not. They were just thrown in.
And I've done that, so I've talked about this. It's not even really a joke yet, so I'm still figuring that part out. But I've done that at 3 different shows, and I'd say each one of those shows had 50 to 60 people in it, and one of the people in that room knew that you had to do that.
Yeah, right. And so you don't think about it at all. Like there's actually like rules to recycling, but
Well, it's
everyone's
no,
like,
yeah,
throw it
I
in.
guess it's just like the fallacy of like humans in general is that no matter how much we try to be good, you're fucking things up that you don't even know. Like you don't
Constantly.
even realize like
Yeah.
what kind of impact that you're having, or so that's why it's just better to not. It's better not to care a lot. I'm not saying like don't give a shit about anything because that's just a fucking stupid way to live life.
Right.
But don't just get so invested in certain things that like you don't know that much about. I used to get like really upset about a lot of things but that had nothing to do with like a lot of
Right.
social topics, like a lot of politically.
I feel like the
charged
social
stuff.
networks have like a lot of influence on that. of
well, they
people
force you to
seeing
have an
something.
opinion. They
Yeah.
force you to have an opinion about like it's a talking point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I would get really, really worked up about certain things. And then I remember talking to somebody one time and it clicked for me where they were like, well, I'm not willing to do anything about it, so I don't care.
Yes.
And
Right.
and that seemed at first I wanted to kind of attack that idea and be like, well, if you don't care, then how are things going to change? But then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, well, what is what I'm doing changing
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah. How are things going to change if
How
you
is
don't
me
actually do
complaining
anything?
about this and just yelling at people about
Yep.
it, like actually making this any
It's
better?
not.
Like I'm not running for office. I'm not going around the neighborhood getting
Right.
people to sign a petition. What the fuck do I care? Like I mean, I feel like you can. If
There's
you
a
wanna,
lot of that going
Right.
around.
If you want to have a positive impact on the people, if you want to have a positive impact on the world, I believe it happens in like small groups. So like what
Yeah.
we're doing with stand-up comedy, while it's also like very self-indulgent, like the idea of it
Yeah.
is you're making a whole room full of like 100 people laugh and have a great night, you know,
Yeah.
and hopefully
Yeah.
that like permeates into their life in some way. So if you can just like influence people's life and make it a little better every day, like 10 people, 20 people, and
You're
then
doing
hopefully that
something.
permeates, that's
Yeah.
way better than just bitching about something.
yeah, it sure is
Yeah.
better than like you might if you bitch online, more people might see it, but it sure as fuck isn't the impact of going out and actually doing a show for people.
Well,
in
if you
the
want to
same
do
room.
it, just do it. Like, if you want to
Yeah.
be about it, like, be about it.
Then
Like,
be about
don't,
it,
yeah, don't. That's why we have politicians, right? Like, as corrupt as that potential system is, right? In theory, I don't have the fucking time. I don't have time to like care about everything and then do something about it.
right.
I want to live my own life. Like, fortunate enough that I was like born in the United States, like came up in a decent family, like didn't have as much to fucking deal with, and I want to be able to give back like as much as I can. Like I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a comic, I try to help people in every walk of life that I can, but I'm not willing to just like devote my life to killing plastic. You know what I mean? Like that's not like that's not my cause. Like I don't care. So does that make me a bad person because I don't want to drop like everything that I'm doing?
Yeah,
in order to save plastic.
In order to
be
save
like,
the fucking turtles.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
to pick up every straw in the ocean.
yeah, fuck fuck turtles, right? I think it's essentially what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
That's like bitching about the environment while smoking a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like, shut the fuck up.
And there's a lot of that kind of shit that goes on. And you're exactly right, where it's like, well, if you're not willing to actually go out and do something, then like, what are we doing here?
You're not making anything better.
Yeah.
I think it's like this
You're
weird
just making noise.
it's this weird illusion that we have at this point. I think it's probably always existed, but it's
Prominent.
It's hyphen now because of everybody has a voice, right? And you can
Yeah.
everybody. It's the same thing as commiserating, right? Where people complain about things, and there's camaraderie in complaining because it feels good to have people like agree with you.
Well, people are tribal, and that's part of it.
Yeah, it feels nice to have people agree with what you have to say, but in reality, what you're saying is actually making everybody feel worse.
Yeah.
Like it's the small dopamine hit that you're getting from the oh wow, we all agree with each other and we can all bitch about the same thing,
Right.
and without somebody telling us that we're wrong. Like it's like a key bump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, and
It's a dopamine key bump of agreement.
yes, but in
Or affirmation.
But the full cycle of that conversation actually makes you feel worse because you're spending most of your time
Bitching.
just bitching about stuff, and it doesn't make you feel any better.
Right.
No,
And you're also not actually doing anything.
No, it's quite.
not
it's
actually
it's
helping.
honestly, it's quite the illusion that your mind makes. Just doing that, like you can sit there and bitch all you want, but at the end of the day, when you bitch all the time, I see what you're saying. You're gonna make yourself feel worse because then your mind just always is bitching.
Right.
To
Yeah,
yourself,
and I'm
then
not saying
just
that you have
throw it
to.
out.
I'm not saying that you have to just pretend like things are hunky dory all the time.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
do think there's a lot to just keeping some shit to yourself, like
Yeah.
you know, and just not like you don't have to vocalize every single thing that comes to your mind. It's easy to do that now because there's so many social media platforms to do that
Yeah.
and feel like you have a voice, but sometimes you just got to like hold some stuff in and then talk to people like in a respectful and kind way. And there's got to be channels for you to get that shit out. But overall, like if that's the majority of the conversation that you're having with people, it's like what kind of life are you like really living?
The shitty one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some people, there's a lot of people who just love to be miserable, man. And it sucks. It's sad to watch, especially when you see that kind of friend. I don't know if you've seen this, like friends from high school and stuff, and when you see them later, they're just kind of like drowning in this negativity where everything they do is a complaint or a bitch, and there's a weird kind of like catharsis in that people get off on it.
One of the I'm not like a Buddhist per se, but like after
It's
after
a
I
good intro to
per se. All right, so after having religion jammed down my throat for the majority of my life, we had to go to church for 8 hours a week. You know, like that's a full shift of God. Like no 10-year-old
That's a
should
9
really
to
have
5.
to do that.
Yeah.
And most people go to church for 3 hours a year. You know, it's
Right.
like Christmas, Easter, and an unplanned pregnancy scare. Those are the only time people go to church. Okay, so I was just very against it for a long time, and then later on in my life, I started just getting back in touch with some kind of a spirituality, like within my I think the human condition is just too fucking weird for there not to be something else. Like I'm not one of those people that's just like everything's meaningless and we're just animals like everything else. Like I just fucking I don't buy it. I'm not saying that I have an answer to it or that I have like this big rebuttal, but I'm just
And
like,
you don't have to have
But
an
you're not
answer.
just negative as shit about it.
Yeah.
no, I'm not like nihilistic.
There is like a gray area in between there.
Yeah, I just think everything about what we're doing right now is fucking weird, man. Like we're recording a podcast.
We're talking into a bunch of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Talking into
metal
a bunch
is-
of metal that were permeating out to like other people,
Yeah.
and we're in a tiny house that people built in the middle of the mountains that you have roads that like lead to, and just there's a ski resort here that people have built. Like
Yeah.
fucking shit. All right, I'm going off on some
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Korey is on acid, just by the way.
Yeah, I do like acid. But my point is just sorry. What I was getting to is like, so after I started getting back in touch with like my own spirituality, I started gravitating more towards like Eastern philosophies, like Buddhism, Hinduism, things like that.
Mhm.
Which is just, it's hard to have a great opinion about religion unless you've studied everything.
Right.
And that's one of the weird things about like growing up anywhere, right? Like you're a product of what was available.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
of
course.
course.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So one of the tenets of Buddhism is that life is suffering, right? And you can either just die with that fact, or you can just say, well, this is just how it is, and I'm still going to make it better, like
Yeah.
regardless. Like if life is just suffering, like things are going to happen. Like you're going to die. Like the second that you're born, you're going to die,
Right.
right? So immediately it's suffering.
Yes.
So what are you doing about it? Like, what are you doing with that time? Are you just cowering in a corner and
Are you
saying
just
everything's
waiting for it to be
terrible?
over?
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what your situation is, no matter like what point of whatever stature you came from, whatever bad place you came from, it's like, okay, yeah, like that sucks. What are you gonna fucking do about it?
Right.
And I think that's like all we've got. Like
Yeah.
on this, yeah.
I mean,
on-
that's true. That's probably a different way of looking at it than most people would, but it's all of that is true. And it's kind of like, what are you gonna do with the time you got? And transitioning back into the Steamboat comedy scene, that's kind of where we were at like
yeah.
a year ago.
That's why I think what you guys are doing here is fucking awesome. Like you've got a small town and you're running a great comedy
Right.
scene here. Like that's great.
I
You're
mean,
making
like
the most of
seriously,
what you
like
got.
we did these open mics and they went well, and then like I basically was like, I really enjoyed this. I want to do this. I need to jump in with both feet immediately.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much where we.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about this like a year ago.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, we
There was a write up in the newspaper. Do you remember that?
which one?
I don't fucking know. Whatever.
Oh,
How
when
many
you guys took
newspapers?
the group photo?
How many newspapers
yeah.
are in Steamboat?
Well, we've been.
One. There's
right.
one.
That's what I'm saying when you're like, what newspaper? So there was a write up in the newspaper, right? And in the article it said, you guys talked to a pro comedian or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's me.
That's
like,
you.
I'm the fucking And it also said this pro comedian said, you guys have a great idea and this is gonna definitely work out. And I didn't say that.
I forget.
I didn't say that
What he
shit.
really said was like, "Are you guys
I
fucking
didn't say
high?
that
Quit, quit while you're
Like,
behind."
yeah, you sure you want to go through this?
I love local journalism.
Yeah, right?
Where they were just like, this is the news.
That's
This
so
is-
funny. Yeah, we've been in the paper twice actually.
Woo.
Yeah, no big deal. We did when we first started out. Brittany coordinated like an interview with the paper in the first one. I think that's the one you're talking about. And then Kendra and I just got interviewed for the paper. In
yeah,
the middle of the summer.
Before the Butcher Knife show.
Yeah, before the Butcher
Yeah.
Knife show.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we did a lot of press for that one. We did like a radio ad and shit.
Mhm.
I actually recorded a radio ad here
And
in
just
the
sent it.
podcast studio, then just emailed it to him.
Yeah, that show you guys ran last night was rad. I just wish I would have had more time. Like I wanted to be able to do like 25 minutes. It was great. I had a blast like while I was up there.
Dude, I
but-
mean, it was such a great
that's why like
crowd.
when I checked in with you, I'm like, how much? Like, what do I got on time? It was just mostly because I'm like, fuck, like I want to do like,
Yeah.
a bunch more shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wish we could have gone all night, man, but unfortunately we were up against
A
we had
band.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like the eggs and pagans of like figuring out a venue too.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, if like you got some place that wants to support you, then that's the most important thing.
right.
Yeah.
And then figuring things out logistically like comes from that. Like next time around, I would love to do a Friday Saturday. Yeah, that's the way you're gonna get like more comedians to be able
Yeah.
to come up here is if you can do a double booking.
Yeah.
And so that's more money, right?
That's
And-
also a way that we can get more time, I think. As you were saying that, I was thinking, because we want to give a lot of people here, like locals, a platform. And so we tried to jam a bunch of people into one show. But if we do 2 nights, we can
You
have
know-
half as many people, and they can do twice
There
as
were
much
so
time.
many
Right.
people in that room last night. I would find it hard to believe that you wouldn't get at least like half of that for another night.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like That I think that is the biggest like bigger show we've had.
Yeah.
But even still, like
Yeah.
other ones that have happened are still big crowds. Like
I mean, when we did a show at the Chief this summer, and the Chief was sold out, and
Yeah.
that seats at least 100 or so people.
And in the wintertime, I
Give
mean,
or
there's
take,
so many rotating people here that like you don't have to. I don't think you have to worry as much about like is it a repeat crowd from
Right.
like, last night or
Yeah.
anything. Like people are just looking for shit to do. You know what I mean? People
definitely.
are literally just jumping on their phone after they're done skiing, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, what's going on in town tonight?"
well,
right?
being such a tourist heavy place. I mean, you literally every 3 days have a new crowd of people in this town.
Yeah, that might be the move. We might have to do. Well, the next show we got planned was our 1-year anniversary. First big show we did was the day before Valentine's Day last year. And we just booked another one for the day before Valentine's Day this year, which is a Thursday. But I'm thinking maybe we could do a Thursday and a Saturday.
That'd be pretty cool.
What day is Valentine's Day?
It's a Friday.
I never know.
It's
mean-
the 14th, the 13th.
I haven't had a Valentine.
Yeah.
Wah, I usually break up with them before Valentine's
Yeah,
Day.
right. That's,
yeah,
that's
save the
called
money.
being financially
Yeah.
smart and prudent.
Yeah, because
Economic.
Russell Stover's is expensive.
Right, $8.99 for chocolates.
Jesus.
Get out of here.
Fuck that! I'll buy it when it's on sale the next day and eat it to myself.
Right. Wait a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that my girlfriend doesn't give a shit about tacky holidays. It saves me a lot of
You have
money.
a girlfriend?
I do.
I didn't see that coming.
So looking around my room like, are you fucking kidding me?
Where do you
A
hide
girl
her?
stays
Kyle
here?
told a story about losing his virginity earlier, and I didn't believe that either.
Yeah, and I said it was Wednesday. It was a great day. Right before the show.
Fun filled, you know.
Real
Well, I had fun.
a real And we laughed and we laughed.
She laughed at me too.
Yeah. She saw my penis and we laughed and we
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hung like an Irishman, you know? I mean, it's good. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like everybody's like, you know, when we're younger, you're supposed to care a lot about like the size of your dick, right? And I think you just gotta figure out other ways to step your game up. Like if you don't have, if you're not working with a lot, right?
You got options.
Takes a little more work,
Yeah.
but there's opportunity there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If you got a small dick, just throw it out there, straight up.
Like
if
out
you
of your pants?
No. If you're
I mean, like, that's how you go to jail.
That's
Jared.
assault. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
you don't have to throw it out. If you just pull your
Fucking
pants up
Steamboat,
really
man.
high, it'll give you a knuckle. No, no. If you,
yeah,
dude,
the outline's fine.
I'm serious. If you're at a bar and you're trying to be funny but kind of serious, and
Just whip your dick out.
no, just be like, by the way, I got a really small dick. And then the girl's kind of like, like, I don't know if you're joking or if you're for real. So then when you pull out a small dick, they're not surprised.
Right.
I'm,
Well,
I'm never gonna do that.
it's definitely
Oh,
better
dude,
than
it
saying
works.
it's big and, you know.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
the
nice, small
point in
dick.
even saying what? Why would you even say what size it is?
Yeah, I would just
Because
be
it's
like,
hilarious.
I remember. This is a weird thing for me to have thought about earlier, but I remember there was a kid. I was in Boy Scouts, and there was a kid that would always like pull his dick out, like at summer camp and stuff. Like just inappropriate, just terrible.
Was it Mormons?
everyone knows that friend, for sure.
Yeah, there was like when you're 12, like there's a guy that just pulls his fucking dick out like all the time.
We knew a
he's
kid
not
like
an
that when we were like
When,
25.
Yeah.
when I was 23.
Yeah.
His name is Jake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of the adults. Don't worry. Like it's just it's a child.
Wasn't a scout leader or anything.
But
No,
it would
I
always
mean-
like all right, so it would always send everybody into a fucking frenzy, right? And that fueled him, and he'd be like, he'd be like, I'm the best, or I'm super funny, or whatever. And I just remember looking at him one time and just be like, that is the tiniest dick I have ever seen. And he got real self-conscious.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly, right? And he was just like, "Shut up, man! What are you, gay or something?" I'm like, "No, it's just like really small.
It's like, no,
it's just like it's just
I'm not gay. I'm
like,
observational.
It's weirdly small." And he never did that shit again.
He'll
Never
stop
whip
him
it out
real
again.
quick.
Oh,
That's
man.
awesome. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Steamboat comedy.
Steamboat comedy.
Yeah.
There was, oh, my
Lot of
God.
dick.
Tiny
Lot of
dicks.
dick, yeah.
One of my
A lot
favorite
of tiny dicks.
One of my favorite things I had in middle school. So we had our middle school principal, and his name was
He would whip his
Mr.
dick out.
Graves, and we're getting there. He was this huge guy. He was weird and old. He was like 6'8", probably.
Oh, yeah, it's empty.
But two of my buddies, they went to the bathroom one time, and Mr. Graves was in there taking a piss. and they were on either side of him in the urinal. And apparently, Mr. Graves was pissing about a foot back from the urinal, and he had out what they both agreed on was a massive fucking hog. Like the biggest one they've ever seen.
Really?
And so that was like the running joke for my entire middle school and high school career was Mr. Graves' giant dick.
All right, I missed a crucial part of this story. Why was an adult's dick out like in front?
He
of
was in the
children?
bathroom.
Yeah,
he was
but,
taking
like,
a piss.
away from the urinal.
He's just one of those guys who probably thought
like just launching it from Jupiter, just seeing how
Yeah,
fucking it can get an
just
arc.
like
Sometimes you try to
no
go for the
shame,
challenge,
just
man.
kind of like casually laying it out there.
Just seeing if anybody's interested.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably, got some hubris, some penis hubris in there as well.
Yeah, I've never had dick big humorous. I said that wrong, and I decided to just like lean into it.
Just go with it, dude. Just do it, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty dick big.
Cock small.
Cock small. Me cock small.
Yeah. So that show was
Bunga
great.
bunga.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do. Like, in
Yeah,
the future.
and we're really glad you came up. Yeah, it was last night was great. We had a great turnout. Again, thanks to everyone who came out. Everyone did. How did you think it went, Jay?
I thought it went great. I think everyone did really well. Like there wasn't. I don't think. No one went up and didn't get laughs.
And that was your first big show that you've done.
Yeah, my first not open mic part. That's part of Steamboat comedy.
And you felt pretty
Yeah.
good about it?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't exactly go the way I wanted it to. I felt like I just didn't deliver right. But, I mean, I think it still went good.
Yeah, I thought you did
think-
pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I need a lot of practice. But, yeah, no, I mean, I still thought it went awesome.
No, I mean, and the crowd was in a great mood, was really receptive for everybody who came up, too.
Yeah,
Well-
having the chairs was a big,
Yeah.
Yes.
a big thing.
Just like you're saying how we're all new, this whole town is basically new to the comedy scene.
Yeah.
And so there's been times where we're like going to a bar and we're like, hey, we want to do a comedy show. And they're like, cool, let's do it. And we're like, okay, do you got chairs? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, no, you got to have chairs.
But, yeah, you can't have standing room.
You can't just have people just mingling
No.
around in the front like a
I've
mosh
always
pit.
been very uncompromising about venues. All right, so there's a few elements that you need for a comedy show. You need a tight room. You need, like, ideally it's low ceilings, fairly small. 60 to 70 people for like a small venue is great.
Yeah.
But you want people to be on top of each other. Like the more space, the worse it is. Like you
Right.
want, like, because laughter is very contagious,
Yes.
Mhm.
right? You need seats, and you need like a legit light, sound, and if you have a stage, that's even better, in a
Yeah.
spotlight, right? Like, so you need those things. to
Having
make
a
it great.
stage is so much nicer than not having a stage.
Yeah, it makes it professional. Like it
Very
makes
much
it
so.
it makes it a real deal.
It's more of like a presentation.
Well, I was
at
going to say,
that
I think
point,
it gives
know?
you a little more control when you're
Yeah.
on stage. Like, I think, like,
and
he's
even
on stage.
an aspect
he's,
of professionalism too. I
yes,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, but the biggest thing the second you get on stage, it's your stage.
Yeah,
You have to own that space.
definitely.
You know, and the second you lose that, you lose the audience completely.
Mhm.
And they might chuckle at whatever you're saying, but they're not going to belly over if they're not on board with like what you're doing and like what you're bringing to the table.
Definitely.
But from like a space position, there's a chain of comedy clubs in the country. It's called like Funny Bone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty funny bun.
Yeah. So the Funny Bone and the Improv are owned by the same people.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right? So they have like a bunch of them like all over the country. And they're all the same, like in the sense that like they're big rooms. They're like 350 person rooms,
Oh,
but
really?
they're all like very high ceilings, and they're all
Mm.
tabled. So if you go to a place like Comedy Works, it's like kind of not cafeteria seating, but kind of like schools.
It's tight. Yeah.
It's more of like a university setting, like you're sitting in at a lecture, right? Where
Kind of
it's
like
Yeah,
an
that's-
auditorium.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's it. So everybody's kind of like on top of each other. There's not a lot of space. So with the Funny Bones, like they have the table service. That's how they make a decent amount of their money, and the shows are fucking great. Like if you can fill those rooms, they're fantastic. But
Mhm.
I've been in a situation before. This is one of the worst shows I've ever done. Period. I drove through a blizzard to get to Syracuse, New York.
I
which
thought you were
is-
gonna say the steamboat.
That was
2
very
days ago.
recent. Yeah, that was very recent, but not the worst show I've ever done. It's one of the best shows I've done in a while. So I lived in Saratoga Springs, New York. It's about 2 hours away from Syracuse, okay? Drove through a blizzard because I had a hosting opportunity at this club.
Nice.
And when you're getting going, like you
got to take those, yeah.
You just take whatever you can get.
Any mic, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I drive through this storm to get there. My friend's riding with me, and we get to this venue, and it's a 350-person venue, right? It's big, and it's high ceilings. 12 people came,
Oh, no.
and they didn't cancel the show.
Oh my god.
And they also didn't seat anybody. So they let everybody just sit wherever they wanted to.
Did they just space out all weird?
Jesus.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
They spaced out very strangely. Except for my mother and my friend. So my mom and my parents still live in Syracuse. And my mom and my friend were sitting in the front row at this table, right? And it's so quiet that I can hear my mom from the stage go, "That's not how that happened." He's
So everyone in the crowd.
That's
can
not
hear
true.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah. So it took every ounce of my being to not just be like, "Mom, will you shut the hell up?"
Mom, shut up.
But in hindsight, that's one of those things where I'm like, I should have,
Yeah.
because it
That
would
would have been
actually
really funny.
it would have made the show like way better, because now I'm just like, sometimes you just
11
go out-
other people would have really loved that.
Sometimes, like, okay, so when you're doing certain shows, like if it's okay, so last night, it's a kind of a hybrid situation because it's not a straight comedy club, and it's a little rowdier of a crowd. But if you're going to like Comedy Works or something, or the Improv or Funny Bone, and it's a good sized crowd, like you just go up and rip your material.
Right.
Just do the material, do the things you've practiced on, keep it tight, keep it right, and just get going. Right. With certain shows, my line of logic is always, if it's not a lot of people or they're disinterested, you got to break the barrier a little
Riff
bit.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to riff a little bit, and you got to talk to them. A lot of times, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
if you just ask people questions, like they'll just tee stuff up for you, like
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
the time, right? And if your muscle memory is good and practiced, like you can jump on that stuff like
Right.
really quick, right? But it takes, some audiences are about them. They don't care about you being up there like a movie screen.
Right.
Some crowds want that. They're like, we're here for
They're
the
like,
show.
give me a show. Yeah.
You've worked on this thing, like we want to see it.
Yeah.
And then other crowds, like usually if it's rowdy, a good rule of thumb is like if it's rowdier or if it's a smaller audience, don't worry about your material.
Just kind of go with, or
Just talk to them.
Yeah.
Trust your funny bone, if you will. Trust your intuition.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, and just don't be afraid to rip them like a little bit.
Yeah.
But the rule of thumb that I was always taught was don't ever rip into anybody harder than they hit you.
Okay, yeah.
So like, don't just roast somebody
keep it level.
out
Right.
of the like. If
Don't
you,
just
yeah,
blast somebody.
don't just don't tell somebody they're a fucking idiot like
Right.
without them prompting you first, and don't go harder than they do.
Then they went.
yeah, because it's still your stage, and you
Right.
still have 20 minutes to fill on this set, right?
Right.
So if you turn everybody against you in like minute 5, it's like, whoa.
Then you're just
this
going to eat
is-
shit for 15 minutes.
We're digging
Yeah.
ourselves
Yeah.
out of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like pretty hard.
Damn.
No, that's a good rule of thumb. That's
Yeah.
smart. And that's something it's kind of hard because we mostly just do open mics here. I've been trying to get more crowd work in. It's just not always easy.
You can't
It's
make
tough
it. You
here,
can't
man.
you can't force it to happen.
Yeah.
No.
It's one of like everybody wants to get better at crowd work because it's a cop out. Like everyone's okay. So here's when people get into comedy. Here's the two things you hear the most. When you're at an open mic and people say, "All right, well, before I leave, I'm going to tell you guys a story." And every time I say that, every time somebody says that, I go, "Ugh," like I fucking
Yeah.
I throw up in my fucking mouth.
That's super tacky.
No, it's not even that. Okay, so it's I know what's coming. So what's coming is you had 3 minutes, and you're gonna wait until you get the light to tell a 3-minute story, and you're gonna wait. You're gonna tell every detail of this story, which is the setup to a punchline that you have no idea if it's even gonna work, and you don't understand how a joke works.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're gonna tell me a story that takes 3 minutes to tell in its entirety. It has no punctuations, and the only punchline comes at 2:45.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's all filler.
yeah, and you at a mic have the blinders on. Like you can always tell with like newer comics, they don't see the light.
Yeah.
They don't see it. Like they're blackout, you know? And I get it. I'm not it's going to happen. But you can just tell, like, they got this, like, glazed over look in their eyes, and they're just saying
And
what
there's,
they
like,
practiced
adrenaline going. They're not paying attention.
this whole time, right?
Yeah.
So what I was trying to get at is people are really bad storytellers.
Generally, yeah.
But it's the reason everybody gets into comedy. Because somebody said, you're really funny.
Tell us that story.
Tell us the story. Or this group of everybody that has context, knows all of the characters in this story.
Yep.
And we're hanging out at a dinner party or we're hanging out at the bar. So our time isn't fragile.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why everybody's like, oh, I'm going to be a storyteller.
Yeah.
And it's really fucking hard to tell stories. Like that story that I told last night about getting caught smoking weed, that's taken me 2 years to write. Like with all of the punctuations and all the punchlines.
To keeping it so that it keeps interest as
that
you're going
story lasts
throughout
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it still holds true to the principle of comedy writing where you need a reaction every 30 seconds.
Right.
So every 30 seconds in that story, I've got something. But it started from nothing.
Right.
So you've got to be like really patient with some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody thinks they're a storyteller, and everybody wants to do crowd work because you're just talking.
Yeah.
Right. Like you didn't have to do anything.
You didn't have to
work
prepare.
at this.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't have to craft a good joke. You didn't have to like rack your brain thinking of the smartest way to say this.
And it's
I get
also
it.
kind of impressive too.
Yeah.
If you can pull it off.
But it's like, okay. So the thing with crowd work stuff is like, just dip your toe in a little bit every time you want to try to do it.
Right.
And then pull it back.
Mm-hmm.
Dip it in a little bit and then pull it back.
Mhm.
Okay? And then the more you do that, the better you get at it.
Right.
But if you try to jump in too much too fast, now this isn't fun for anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're not good enough to make it good, to make it funny, and then also be able to pull it back into your set.
Right.
Like where you can like now move from here. You haven't
Yeah.
lost any momentum and you can just like keep it going.
Right. And you've already worked on your set and your material enough where you can take yourself out of the comfort zone, dip into that crowd work, and then be able to pull back and keep with the scheduled program.
Yeah.
Without it throwing you off.
Because you have to be comfortable with crowd work not fucking working.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, it's just like it doesn't fucking work. And
Yeah,
it
you're not
can't
gonna hit every time.
and it can't shake you. It's just like, as soon as you sense this whole thing is intuition.
Right.
Like, everything about what we're doing is intuition. It's not being delusional to yourself about how good a joke is working. Like if it's not fucking working, it's not working. Like
Right. You can't force it.
Don't disillusion yourself to say that like, no, this is great. It's like, no, it's not. Like, no, it's fucking not.
This is great. Well, no one laughed. Well, it's still great.
Yeah, I don't know what some people hear sometimes when
Yeah,
they're
I
like
know.
when they're like on stage when they're like, oh, I killed it. I'm like, what the fuck
It's
are you
like,
talking
Kill
about?
what?
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with not doing well. Like this is
That's part of getting better. Of
that's
course.
totally part of getting
Yeah.
better. Like you're
But-
not gonna do well.
Yeah,
Like, that's the thing
That's the
about comedy is
yeah.
like you're not gonna fucking.
You're not gonna
well.
do
Have
well.
that expectation going into
Yeah.
it.
Yes, but you also don't want to fuck a dead horse, as the analogy goes. As in, if you're not doing well, don't just keep doing the
Yes.
same thing over and over
Fucking
again.
Steamboat hillbilly.
Up here, we fuck dead horses.
fucking horses. Yeah. Well, just don't. Sorry. So don't delusion yourself in the sense that like, okay, things are going better than it is, and don't lie to yourself about how good you are at certain things. It's just like be willing to get better. Like be
Right.
willing to
Yeah.
work.
And be
on
willing
it.
to take criticism, I think, is a big one.
Yeah,
there's
but-
a lot of hubris, a lot of ego that goes into some of this stuff.
There
too.
is, but the way criticism works is like be open to it.
Mhm.
Be willing to like accept it, but it's still up to you to take it or not.
That's true. You can
Yeah.
also, there's a lot of people, especially with comedy, who will give you criticism and it's fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Like there's some random people who are like, oh, I saw like your show the other night and it went well. And I was like, thanks. They're like, you know what you should do? You should do this.
Oh,
And it's like,
God.
dude, fucking.
I started writing a notepad of, and it's titled "Things You Should Put in Your Skit." And it's all stuff that people are like, hey, you can use that in your skit. And it's not a very long list right now because I thought to start keeping a
Just
list of
started,
it
yeah.
like recently.
That's
and,
awesome.
But eventually, I want to get it to a point where like this is all the fucking stuff that people at some point in time have said.
I
Like,
said, yeah.
you can use that. I'm like, oh, I'll never use that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I told it was just an open mic with the one time a friend of ours. She was just like, you know what, Kyle? Like I know you do comedy now. I just had this idea. She was like, so
Fuck
I was
your
thinking
idea.
like that like Vladimir Putin and also like Poutine. Maybe you could like, you know,
Man, hopefully she's super hot because that's the dumbest shit.
Well-
I've heard in a long time.
Wait, did you say a friend of ours?
yeah.
Mouth the name to me.
Hitler.
Oh. That was a good impression.
Yeah, right. It sounds like it, right? I love her, but I would just kind of looked at her and I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally do that.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, I don't mind people trying to be friendly. Like the girl we were talking to at the bar.
There's nothing wrong with
earlier.
people being friendly.
Yeah.
And all right. So the reason comedy is a different medium than other art forms is that everybody at some point in time in their life has been funny.
Yes.
I have never in my life been a good painter.
Yeah.
I've never
I've
been.
never played piano successfully.
I've played
yeah.
guitar, not great at it. I would never give anybody advice on playing guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
But with comedy, everybody's been funny.
Everyone
Right?
has
So
made
they
a joke.
feel like they can contribute. And part of you wants to like hate it, but then the other part of me is like, at least they care. Right? Like they're
Yeah.
here. As long as they like had fun, that's all I care about. Like one of the women in the crowd last night, there was an older woman that was like stage left at the end of the row.
Yeah.
She's one of those people in an audience that like I don't really care how much fun everybody else is having. Like I'm watching her for like the first 5 minutes of my set.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if she's having fun, then everybody's having fun.
Yeah.
Like I need to figure out how to make this fun for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like she seemed like she was laughing. She wasn't being a total like wart or anything. You know, she
was
like,
into it.
yeah, a total wart.
Yeah.
She was the girl next to her. The one time, I don't know if you saw this, I jumped off stage. And
Oh,
I
you
landed on her.
almost smoked her.
I landed on her foot.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking tiny piece of shit.
I think I just caught like the.
You're like
The
a
front
mustached
rubber.
flying squirrel.
That's exactly right, baby.
Yeah.
Fucking kamikaze.
Yeah, with
But
holes in
I
it.
More
landed
like
on her. And she was,
kamikaze.
Hey.
You were trying to fuck anything last night.
dude.
I know you have a girlfriend, but you tried making out with me. You tried making out with
Whoops.
Me.
tons of other
Whoops.
dudes, and probably who knows anybody that was around.
I was a little bit on the sauce last night.
I just want to point out how drunk you were. We walk out of the bar,
Oh boy.
and you're like 20 feet behind Dylan and I get into my old shitty 93 4Runner, and then you try to get into the 2018 blue 4Runner next to mine, and we had to roll down the window and go, Kyle, wrong car.
Well, it is a nicer car, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying
exactly.
to do
That's
you a
why-
favor.
That's
I
what
was
I'm
like,
saying.
no,
I
take-
wouldn't be in it. I would not be
the
in
dude,
that thing.
the dude just needed a ride home. It didn't
Yeah.
matter who gave it to him.
Somebody drive. me.
Yeah.
I
Get
don't
in
remember any of that.
I'll take a
Oh my
heated seat.
God, dude.
I'll take a heated
It
seat.
was so funny.
Yeah. No.
I'm a celebrity here. Somebody take me.
So, Korey, since we have you here as a fine comedy resource, you got a little more experience than the average Steamboat comedian. So, I want to see what your process is. What is your technique, or if you have any pointers of like how you write, how you come up with material, how you like your mindset when you go to perform, things like that.
That's a lot of things.
Give it all of them in one answer.
Yes, as quick as you can.
Yeah. And 30 seconds or less, go.
If you can just tell us about all of those things. So one of the things that I had talked about doing the other night was like the next time I come to town, I'd really like to do a writer's workshop with everybody that's local.
Oh yeah.
And essentially what that means is that like I'm a working comedian, but I'm trying to get better all the time, and I'm not as good as a lot of other people.
Sure,
that
you can
are-
always
that-
get better, you know.
that exist in the industry, right? I have been fortunate enough to be mentored and be taught by very reputable people that just basically tried to help me just do the things the right way.
Sure.
So what I'd like to be able to do is just take that information that other like people with great credits like have taught me, and just disseminate that to like local population, local people that are interested.
Sure.
Just because I think it helps. Like, So a lot of what you guys are doing right now is everybody that's just starting to do comedy should think of their whole act as preparing for a late night set. Okay, so our generation's different because we're growing up in a Netflix era where there's a billion
YouTube
comedy
era.
specials.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a half hour,
Right.
like that sort of thing. Before us, the big ticket was late night.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
Getting a
then-
5-minute spot on Johnny Carson. or
Right.
whatever.
So
Letterman.
everything that every comedian had worked at for years was boiled down to a 5-minute set.
Mhm.
So you're type 5, right? No matter what show you're doing, when you're first starting out, you're likely going to get showcase spots, and those are 5 to 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And then if you're doing a pro show, which is mostly what clubs do, a pro show is a host spot, a feature spot, and a headliner, okay?
Mhm.
The time breakdown is usually 10 to 15 minutes for the host, 20 to 25 for the feature, and then 40 to an hour for the headliner, okay?
Right.
So if you think you've got 20 minutes and you're ready to feature in like your first 2 years of comedy, you're a fucking idiot. Like you're dumb. Like you're dumb. Like it's just like you're again going back to that whole.
Overconfident. Yeah.
You're just being
Yeah.
no. You're just being delusional.
Right.
Like you're,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just like it's not. And there's nothing wrong with not having 20 minutes. Like it's really hard to tell like jokes for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot
that-
of time to be standing up
That
there, man.
kill like everywhere.
Mhm.
Like I'm not talking about like this just plays to like your local scene or whatever. It's like to have 20 to 25 minutes of road tested material
Yeah.
is difficult.
Sure.
And nobody should feel bad about not having it.
Yeah, of course
You know what
not.
I mean? Like
Right.
yeah, you just work towards that. Okay. So for your first couple years of comedy, you're only going to be doing showcases and you're only going to be doing host spots, okay? So get good at hosting and then prepare for the tightest 5 to 7 minutes that you can do.
Mhm.
So I grew up on the East Coast, and that's the Philly, Boston, and New York way of doing comedy was that old school getting ready for the late night
Yeah.
special kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's all about do your set, listen to it, so record every set that you do. Every place that you don't hear a laugh, get rid of it.
Dang.
Get just
Okay.
like even in the setup, like even in all the setup that you think is important and
Right.
that you think needs to be there.
That's like
Um,
really making it as tight as possible.
So write it,
Yeah.
So write out the whole set, write out the entire set, and then listen back to it,
Mhm.
and literally with a pen on the paper, as you are listening to it, just start to cross words out that you're not getting any laughs at, and then as soon as you do, highlight it. Highlight the punchlines, and then break everything down to what's the least amount of setup that I can do to get to that punchline. Because a problem with people, this isn't even just comics, it's everybody. We think every detail of our life is very important.
Right.
Mhm.
It's just a human thing.
It is. It's a very normal
So
thing.
when you're telling a joke, you think that every single part of the story or the setup is like really important, but the important thing as a comic is to just get there faster because a timing thing happens.
Right.
A pacing, like where people start to get like every 15 to 30 seconds is what you should be shooting for a reaction, for a punchline.
Right.
And if you're not at that point, then you got to get better. Like that's the benchmark essentially.
Yeah.
So like my joke, my opener is I look like if a corgi became a real boy. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, it's going.
it's one joke.
Yeah.
It didn't take me talking about corgis for 5 minutes,
Right.
or talking about looking like other things,
Right.
or whatever,
Or
right?
yourself
Yeah.
or just anything. Yeah.
It was the
just-
shortest version of this joke.
I mean, did
Okay.
that start out as something longer that you
No.
whittled down?
No, that one didn't. But that's why certain jokes do. Like, and if you have a bit and you got a premise that you're working on, like I'm doing this gender reveal party bit like right now, right? And right now it takes like 3 minutes to do, but it's not that uncommon for it to become 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where you think, because this is the way you wrote it the first time, that, nope, this is a 3-minute bit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not.
Right.
It's 30 seconds. It's like, it's and you could build, like, so the best way to go about doing things is, like, write it out long form, say it out long form, record it, and then listen to where the beats are, listen to where, like, people are actually giving a reaction, right? Cut out all the fat, make it as short as possible, and then build it back out slowly. So it started as 3 minutes.
Right.
Then it became 30 seconds. But then the more you work on it, like over time, now it becomes 40 seconds.
Right.
Now it becomes 50 seconds.
You start by condensing down the funny, and then you can add more funny on.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
usually, like, a joke about the same premise takes 10 seconds to tell, right? But that made that joke.
Especially if you've already got them laughing on that premise, right?
Yes.
You've already got them bought in.
Yeah. So one of my detriments and also benefits of the comedy club that I started at is this place, ironically enough, called the Comedy Works in Saratoga Springs. Not the same one.
Is it owned by the same people or completely?
No,
That's
it's completely
funny.
different. So I was auditioning there. I'd been doing like open mics for like a year and getting booked on like local shows or whatever. And I was like, I want to work here. You know, I want to be able to like host and whatever. And I wasn't necessarily ready, but I was ready enough. Like I was ready enough for the type of talent like they were bringing in, and also like for a local comedy club, you've got to nurture local talent. Otherwise, they're just not going to get better.
Right.
Right. So he was like, okay, I want to come and I'll come into like the next open mic or whatever, and I'll see you do a set. And I did my set, and it went well. Like I had like a 4 to 5 minute set. It went okay. It went well with the material that I had at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not stuff that I would do now. But his note afterward, which was a shitty note for somebody that's auditioning in a 5-minute spot and that's new at comedy. But it's
Said,
one.
kill yourself.
Yes. And I wish I would have taken him on that advice.
Think of where you'd be now.
In the ground.
Yes.
Very specifically. His thing was, oh yeah, you jumped around from topic to topic too much. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I only had 5 minutes. These are like the best jokes that I'm doing. And I thought that was a shitty note to give somebody that's like not a seasoned comic.
Yeah, if you're just starting out, yeah, I can see that kind of not being the best.
So there's two things here. He's not wrong.
Sure.
Because I think the way you become a better comedian is you just write a lot of things about the same thing.
Right.
And then that becomes what's called a chunk. Right? So now you have a chunk of material.
Yeah.
That's about this like same thing. Okay?
Right.
And it has in turn made me a better comic because now I'm writing more stuff about things that are actually going on in my life without having to jump around as much.
Right.
Like if you followed my set at all last night,
See, I was too distracted by that drunk asshole.
yeah, that
talking
guy's
about, God,
that guy fucking
that
sucked.
guy.
But my set at this point, it follows a pretty clear narrative, you know, of like who I am, like as a person. But that came out of like I don't have enough material about this one thing, so I got really disciplined about like I need to have 5 minutes of material about this one thing, about this one premise, about this one idea.
Right on.
Yeah. So I think the less jumping around you have to do, the better. And then let's just say, okay, so you've got jokes, bits, and chunks. Okay, these are like it's the breakdown of like joke structure. A joke is real quick. It can be about anything.
Like a one-liner type thing.
Yeah, and then a bit is usually made out of multiple jokes. So it like
a story type thing.
It can even be shorter than that. Like
Okay.
you could have a joke at the front and then another joke on the back end. That's like a bit, right?
Okay.
It's like a longer thing, but
Sure.
it takes could take 30 seconds to 2 minutes, right? And then a chunk is a bunch of bits that have to do with the same thing. Okay, so if you have 3 chunks about X, Y, and Z, and each one takes about 5 minutes, it's 15 minutes of material, right?
Right.
So what that means is you've actually got 10 minutes of material because if one of those chunks isn't working, you can default to the one that you didn't plan on doing and start doing that material. So, like, as opposed to a story, which we've already said is very hard.
Right.
If I'm in the middle of a 5-minute story, I got to finish that story. Like, you can't just bail out of a story.
Right, no.
So when you tell jokes in a chunk structure, it's 5 bits make this chunk. But at any point in time, I can pull the ripcord on this chunk and move to the next one because I'm not tied to anything.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as this stops working, you can just get rid of okay, they're just not digging this.
Right.
You know, so like so then you go. So that's why when you have 15 minutes of material, you really have 10 minutes because if you're asked to do a 10-minute spot, like you have room to kill because you can deviate from the plan.
Yeah.
It's like
So
15 minutes worth that you can whittle down to
So
10.
if you get a 15-minute spot and all you have is 15 minutes, like you're just hoping that everything
goes as planned. Yeah.
everything works out. You're just hoping that everything works with this audience and that you don't have to deviate from the plan at all. But the difference between a pro and somebody that's like just doesn't know what they're doing is essentially like the time that you have isn't the total amount of material.
Right.
It's the
You want to have backup material.
yes, yeah. You want to be able to like because a real like artist can deviate from the plan. Like you can sense what's going on in the room. You can perceive like how things are going, and the more reps you get, the more on stage you get, like the more comfortable you feel with all that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So with me and my joke writing structure, I usually write things out long form. I usually try to, as soon as I get a nugget of something that people are starting to enjoy, like this gender reveal party thing that I'm working on, I'll write about that for like a month, like and just do gender jokes, party jokes, cake jokes, like everything about what goes into
every
this
element
thing.
you could have.
So a gender reveal party is like my brother and my sister-in-law had a gender reveal party like 2 months ago, right? So what goes
And they
into
found
that?
out they were both dudes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, which was also like what we talked about before, where like, and that's where I kind of want the joke to go. Is what if we just let cakes start deciding like every part of our life?
Everything is a cake reveal.
Yeah, which is so ridiculous, right? Okay, so you take something like that and just write out your first like initial interpretation of the thing, like whatever you feel about it, like whatever you think about it, your thoughts, like whatever. I'm a pretty dialogue heavy person in terms of like my writing process, so I like to have dialogue with characters that aren't there and
For
like,
sure.
whatever, in an act out kind of thing. So you write jokes about like my interaction with my brother and how that all went down, but then start breaking down like, okay, so what is it? So we're talking about gender. We're talking about a party. What goes into the party? We're inviting people over.
Right.
Who are we inviting over? Is it friends? Is it family? Can we write jokes about those people?
Right.
What's the reveal? Like, so there's... Is it a cake? Like other people have done fireworks. Is it so? Can I write jokes about fireworks? Can I write jokes about cakes? Can I write jokes about anything? Okay, so you write jokes about all this stuff, and then this stuff becomes the story. So all of these little fragments, like this, a joke about this, a joke about that, a joke about this, a joke about that, like they all become the thing. That all becomes like this one big piece.
Right.
So that's like my smoking weed story. I opened it up with, does everybody here know what a spoof is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they call black guys in Boston.
I think that's a spook.
That's a spook.
Oh, close.
Close enough.
Go on.
Yeah, race isn't a thing.
Whenever I can throw in how Boston is racist, it makes me funny.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Am I talking too much, by the way?
No,
you're good.
Fuck, no, you're killing it. Keep it going.
Yeah, no. It's like blowing my mind.
Okay, so the smoking weed thing, I'll tell the short version of the story, and then we can build it out like from there. I got caught smoking weed when I was like 16 in my house, right? There's a bunch of friends of mine and I smoking weed in the basement. My parents came home early. They freaked out. They called the cops, like, to their house, right?
Naturally.
And the cops came over. My friends ran away and blah, blah. It was like it was a heavy night, right? Like, it was just like, It was
I've had some nights like that. Yeah.
a lot of yelling, a lot of anger.
Yeah.
Again, I was raised Mormon, very conservative.
Yeah.
Parents don't get this kind of stuff, like kind of thing. Okay, so that's the story. You see how long that took to tell?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
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 So when I do that on stage, it's 5 minutes, you know? So
Right.
because I started out by saying, does everybody know what a spoof is? And a spoof is like an empty paper towel doily that you stuff with dryer sheets, and it's like a little tool that people use to smoke weed.
We called that a zoot tube when I was
Yeah,
in
and
college.
everybody has a different name for it.
Yeah.
So that's like a camaraderie building thing. So
Sure.
so I always say, like, you probably know what it is. This is like, okay, so this is another part of like comedy that once you get better at, like, it gets easier. I always say certain things even though it doesn't seem like it's something that I'm planning. So I always ask, like, so does everybody kind of know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
You know?
Kind of bring people in.
Yeah, so like you probably have a different name for it, but you just don't know it. So I'll explain it and then I'll tell you.
Right.
So it's just like very like conversational
Yeah.
sort of thing. So then I explained to everybody what spoof is. But that's not the story. I'm just making a joke about a spoof. I'm making a
Yeah.
joke about like the fucking thing you blow into when you smoke weed.
Yeah.
Right? That has nothing to do with the story, but it's a joke about an object
Yeah.
in the story
Mm-hmm.
that adds 30 seconds, like 40 seconds, like to the story that people really like. And then I say the thing about, so after a show, somebody said, in Kentucky, we call those don't tell mamas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I was like, that's the most redneck shit I have ever heard in my entire life. Don't tell mama sounds like a game of spin the bottle with your cousins is
Yeah.
exactly what. And people love that, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that came from writing a joke about a spoof that had nothing to do with the story. So now I'm like, so you tell the story and then you start analyzing every part of the story and figuring out what you can tell a joke about. Can you make a joke about your friends? Can you make a joke about hanging out in the basement? Can you make a joke about smoking out of a bong? Can you make a joke about
Yeah.
whatever? So every single joke takes 10 to 15 seconds and it fills out a story.
Right. And you build it like it one piece at a time.
Yeah.
Find the funny spots.
It's a slow
yeah.
build. Yeah. So if you have a bit that takes, if you're new to comedy and you have a bit that takes 2 minutes, get fucking rid of it, or just cut it. Just cut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not as funny as you think it is. Like,
Right.
and that's fine. But just like the sooner you stop pretending that it's great, like the better you're gonna get.
Definitely. Being able to be like humble, or at least like understanding that everything you write down isn't fucking gold, and so if
It's
you,
garbage.
Yeah.
most of what you write is garbage.
And
Like,
then
your
being able to
notebook's
whittle
full
from
of
there.
terrible fucking shit. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. It's
I
awful.
got 2 notebooks full.
I think it's going back to saying like what you were saying earlier about taking criticism. Like you have to be able to take criticism. Basically.
Yeah.
Like, but you also I think you have to be able to criticize yourself too.
Yeah, and you also need to understand, like, just because I wrote something and I thought it was funny,
Doesn't mean it's
it
funny.
doesn't necessarily mean
Happens
it's
all the
funny.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
and that's okay.
And you know
Yeah.
what the best criticism is? A quiet audience.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So no matter what anybody's, and this is where I kind of land on what's allowed to be funny and what's not allowed to be funny. I'm a pretty open person about, like, you can joke about whatever the fuck you
yeah.
want.
I mean,
It's
we
still,
were all pretty much the same way.
it
there,
is,
yeah.
but
but it has to be funny.
it is still your responsibility to make it funny.
Yes.
So that's also what I would say to newer comics, is that we're at this like weird intersection of like where you feel like you have to have a big opinion about like very polarizing topics, but comedy is becoming more acceptable. So like you feel like that's the platform for you to express how you feel about it. Fucking don't. Like just like how about don't do that? Because
I agree.
because
There's a lot of preach comedy going on right now. It's
yeah,
so
which is what
crazy.
that whole like Nanette thing did, which was like, so I don't know if did
No,
you
I
see
don't know
like
what that is.
Nanette. It's like this. It's a one-man show that got masqueraded as stand-up comedy about a woman's experience in the world. You know, just like
Yeah,
about
okay.
just like having to deal with men and having to deal with like sexual assault and having to deal with being oppressed and like and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
it
it's
was
supposed to be
very-
funny.
It was a great message. No, it was awesome. Like in the sense of like it's a one-man show. Like it's a theater thing.
Yeah.
or
uh,
one woman.
But it was
show.
broadcast as comedy.
Okay.
Like it was pitched as like stand up, and it's like, no, this isn't fucking stand up,
yeah.
right? So in that
Sounds
world,
more like a PSA than stand up.
yeah, and I mean, there's great one person shows. I love them,
Sure.
but like I
Yeah.
knew that going into that. Like I knew that's what this was. Right?
Right.
It's not masqueraded as something else. So my thing about doing polarizing topics is that, have you ever considered that you're not qualified to talk about this?
Yes.
Yeah, like I just don't know a lot of things.
Right.
So I don't
And
really.
there's nothing wrong with that.
I don't want to joke about something that I just don't know a lot about.
Right.
Right. And another thing with younger comics is you have to understand that your time is very precious, and it's very. This isn't a right. It's not a right for you to be able to get on stage. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
So you have to own that time and be respectful of everybody. Like you have to be respectful of the show.
Yeah.
Like, so if you go up for a 5-minute set and just talk about a bunch of bullshit that divides the room, and now the rest of the crowd is lost and they aren't interested in being there,
yeah.
what the fuck were you? What did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do?
And you
Like, what
fucked
did?
it for
What did?
everybody. Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, why did you do that? Like, you have a responsibility to make this show better.
Yeah.
Like, you're nobody.
Right.
I'm nobody. Like,
Sure.
I am no person, right? Like, I'm not a nationally touring comic. Like, I'm doing okay. It's not like great or
Right.
whatever. But like, I have a responsibility to take care of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like, so once
This
you
is still a performance that people are trying to go enjoy.
once you build a name for yourself and you are the reason people are
Right.
coming to
Yeah.
the show,
Like
like
people
you're
are
putting,
buying tickets to Korey David. Then
They
Korey
want my
David
brand.
can do what exactly
Yeah.
what he wants, and that's all that matters.
They want your brand. They're going
Yes.
to your show.
Exactly.
But if nobody's fucking coming for you, then you have a responsibility to just be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just be
Yeah.
fucking funny.
Very
Like
much
you've got
so.
5 minutes. And even putting together a really tight 5 is hard. Like
Yeah.
don't be delusioned
Oh,
into
yeah.
thinking that like it's not fucking difficult. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So just drill that 5 minutes, make it as funny as possible. Like if you're gonna touch on stuff that's like polarizing, then just be responsible about it and accept the consequences of like you fucked up
Yep.
and you ruined the room for everybody else. Or just don't lie to yourself and say that it was funny when it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a big thing, and I feel like some people, we're in a weird situation because most people you talk to who are comics, they like the first time they go up, they like eat shit basically at some open mic somewhere at like midnight.
The first open mic most people do is great because it's every funny thought you've like
everything you ever
had.
put, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's a
The
good
second
point.
one's usually terrible.
Yes.
Like the second one is usually the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh fuck, I'm pretty good at this, and now I'm
Then
gonna
you-
wait some new shit.
Yeah.
And then
You
you're
coming
like,
out
oh, the
confident.
new shit is terrible. Like the new
Yeah.
shit is not great.
Yeah.
Well, we also in this place, and it's great, and it's not anything I should complain about because it's fantastic. We have everyone who comes out to our open mics is so supportive.
Everyone's very receptive. Yeah.
It's like we have
Which I
a
feel like is not
every time
normal.
we do comedy here, it's a room full of people who are like rooting for us to do well.
Yeah.
And there's been times where we
What
go
is it
to
like
other
the Special Olympics?
Exactly.
Like, they're just
It's
like-
exactly. It's,
and we're
no,
a bunch of retard and
we are-
feathers up there.
we-
Whoa.
Yeah.
Fucking call back.
We're like, yeah, we're the
Turn it full circle.
we're the Paralympics of comedy.
Yeah, no shit. But there's been times where we'll go out of town and we'll go to an open mic in Denver, or we did
Just
one,
eat
and
shit.
we eat shit,
Yeah.
and it's because people here have an inflated ego about how good they are because they've killed it at the 6 open mics they've done with a room full of people who want them to do well. And it's like what you were saying before, the best thing to judge whether someone's funny or not, whether your material is not, is a quiet room.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people here who haven't had quiet rooms, and so
Well, that's like it. I've looked back on the Boulder open mic
Yeah.
we did, and
we had a rough night at Boulder.
Granted,
One time.
no, granted it was super rough. It really was, and it was because it was a room full of other people doing comedy. It wasn't. It was all. It
yeah,
was,
that's a real thing too.
We were
Exactly.
talking about that earlier. And that's,
Like there's
that's
a whole
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into this that people don't understand.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well-
Like and a part of that is like sometimes you're gonna go to mics that are full of comics that don't give a fuck about you or who
Or
you
your
Exactly.
are.
company.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
Like this is like their 8th open mic this week.
Yeah.
Like they don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Right.
that
But
was-
for
that was a
somebody that's
huge
like, if this is your
experience, yeah.
first open mic experience, I could understand how that wouldn't be great. Like
Yeah.
somebody actually, one of the guys that was on the show yesterday, he was talking to me. He's like, I went to a Denver mic and it just wasn't awesome. Like I didn't feel like I was respected, or I went up really late even though I signed up early. And I'm not talking shit. I just what I tried to tell him was that like maybe you just went to a mic that like, yeah, that's the thing. Like there are other
Yeah.
mics. Like if you got a hold of me and asked me like what mics to go to where there's going to be like an
Yeah.
audience and it's
Yeah.
like more kind of like a show, yeah, I'll tell you where those are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's 20 to 30 open mics in the week like in Denver,
Right.
and most people are just going. They
Yeah.
like regardless of like how the crowd is, regardless of
Yeah.
how
Right.
the audience
It's
is.
just about doing it.
It's about doing the reps. It's about like it's about
Right.
saying the bits out loud. It's about getting some kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
And that was us in Boulder. We went to this open mic, and I don't think. Well, I guess I don't really know the Boulder comedy scene, but we went up there. I went 28th out of 28 people,
yeah.
and the audience was exactly 28 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was literally everyone just looking at their phones to do their
Right.
material.
Yeah.
And by the time I got up, I was like, "What the fuck are we doing here, guys?" Like this is, I was kind of a salty bitch about it, but I was like, I was reciting people's jokes from. I was like, "Oh, you might have heard that 3 hours ago when this guy went up." But we were there for 4 hours.
Well-
yeah, I could see how you would eat shit doing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could
So-
see. Yeah.
I guess
I mean,
my-
it was tough. And it was the first time we experienced.
No, I know,
that,
but that's
though.
like that's the reality of this business. Is
Yeah.
like nobody owes you anything.
Exactly.
Well, so-
Like nobody. Yeah. Like,
so that's my point with this whole story. As I started looking at it again, because I think we were big fucking assholes about it. To be honest,
we were.
like now
Yes.
I'm just like, oh, we're just jaded assholes, and we had a fucking ego because exactly what you said. We've
Yep.
done a couple of open mics in a no-name place,
Yep.
and we got good reactions. Then we went to a place and got no reaction,
And
we
we
got
thought that they sucked.
yeah, we were like,
Yeah,
fuck
no,
you guys. Now,
we were giant assholes about
which
it.
and I'm very happy we did not release that podcast now.
Yeah, we
because we
recorded a
would've-
Oh, you guys
podcast
just
about
shitting
it.
yeah,
about it?
and
Yeah.
we would, and I'm so happy we didn't do that because we would have looked like the biggest
The
assholes
biggest
Alright.
in the
assholes.
world.
And
this
we
is
were.
mostly
Yeah.
shit. Like everything about this business is mostly
Mostly shit,
terrible.
yeah.
It's
Like-
mostly terrible. But
And
the
that's
thing
something
is,
we had to learn through experience.
But-
right.
like the highs are so high.
Fuck it.
You know, like
Yeah.
the high of having a sold out room where everybody's just vibing on
Oh,
like
yeah.
what you're saying is it's
like
as
last
good.
night, man.
It's
like,
as good
that's
as a
it
drug. It's as
gets.
good as any drug
Yeah.
you could ever possibly
Yeah.
find, right? And
Yeah.
that's hard to find, right? But it doesn't come without the other parts. It doesn't come without like the just suffering. Life is suffering.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from everything's going great.
Right.
You know, no, it comes from like you have to stick it out.
Yep,
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
It's those who stick around are the ones who make it. Like
Yeah,
it's-
and
Yes.
some people just suck. You know, some people just aren't funny.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
seriously, dude.
no, I'm just fucking around.
but
I'm
I
not.
mean, but also that is not an unfactual statement. I mean, I think it's more about. It's not so much about if you're funny. It's if you're about putting in the work. I think that's what it kind of comes down to.
Yeah.
Because you can be funny and not put in the work, and you're not gonna actually go anywhere. Like you gotta
Yeah.
do it. You gotta get dirty. Like we were saying, you gotta get the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So for everybody that's like just starting out and is working the scene here, like think of your set minute by minute, second by second. Like, how many changes are you making throughout your set? Like, how many bit changes are you making? Like, where you have to, the audience now has to turn their attention to something else that wasn't what you were talking about before, right?
Right.
So it's a deviation of attention. You should always shoot for 30 seconds, but it's hard to do. So
I usually shoot in 30 seconds.
you try to, yeah, nice. Steamboat comedy.
Hey.
Pretty much.
Pre-cum jokes here at Steamboat Comedy.
Crusty underpants. Shoot for 30 seconds is the barometer, right? It's hard to do, but it's the goal, right?
Mhm.
Shoot for every 30 seconds. And then once you get like great, it's 15, like whatever. try to write as many jokes about one thing as you possibly can. And what that means is usually eating it for a while until like it's literally telling 20 jokes about a thing and then finding one that works and it adds 10 seconds to your set.
Yeah.
Right.
So just drill down your 5 minutes, make it the best 5 minutes that you can, and then just slowly start to build it out from there. And just throw shit against the wall. You know, just throw just any idea. You never really know what people are gonna find to be funny.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been bits where I wrote out as like a set and parts that I didn't think were gonna be the funny parts, the ones that end up working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you say something, you kind of like naturally like act it out weird, and like, oh, actually that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, you say something you think is a punchline, and it gets
I tell a joke about eating mushrooms, and usually when I say that, I say, mushrooms have been decriminalized in Denver, and there's always a contingent of the audience that goes, woo. And then all I say is, some of you are tripping right now, and it gets a laugh.
Yeah.
Every time.
Easy.
Very easy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but that's not a joke.
Yeah.
So you don't not everything has to be a joke, and a lot of that comes to
Yeah.
feeling the audience and being present.
I got a joke
Right.
like that too, and it's about how I got beat up by an Indian guy, like
Yeah,
a
sounds
Native
the
American
same.
guy.
Yeah, it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah. But the point is that like I end it with I've been beat up by all kinds of people.
Uh-huh.
It's like the bit is that like my girlfriend thinks I'm prejudiced. I'm making this joke about Native Americans, and like what she doesn't realize is I've been beat up by all kinds of people. But I've tried it 2 different ways where I just end it with that, and then another way where I end it with I hate everyone equally. And when I throw in the I hate everyone equally, it always gets a better response.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like not even, it's like kind of like I almost felt like it was tacky. Like I was like, that's kind of like low hanging fruit. I'm not going to say that. But every time I do it, it gets a way better response.
Yeah, and you're going to get to a point where certain jokes just fall out of fashion with you, and you're just like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
But they're serving you right now.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's already things that even just in the year and a half that I've been doing this, there's bits that I'm like, I don't.
Yeah,
do that
I'm not doing any of the material that I did a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could if I needed to, like in like a longer.
It's always
set.
in the reserve. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not like proud of it. Like, it's not even to say that it's like crass material or that it's like offensive or anything. It's just like this isn't good enough.
It's like I've
Yeah.
gotten to a better level than that.
Yeah,
Right.
Sure.
you just want to be like, and as an artist, like everything that you do now should be better than what you did.
Yeah. I mean, the whole point of doing it all the time is to get better, right?
Like you said,
know?
putting in those reps, man.
And
Exactly. Getting the reps.
pussy. Yeah.
Oh.
Or dick.
Well, we can wrap this up so Korey can get laid. But no, this is great. Great talk with you, Korey. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming up and doing this with
Yeah,
us.
I'd love to come back and be able to do like a full weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then be able to help out the scene.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, man.
And it's awesome. We love dipping into the Denver scene and get you guys to come up. And
Yeah, well, and anytime you want to come down, just like let me know, and
of course.
happy to help you guys out.
Yeah.
And then, like there's a great wealth of talent in Fort Collins and in Denver that would be willing to come up here and like support what you guys have going on.
Sweet,
just,
yeah.
and keep Steamboat comedy like a viable.
And if you
thing.
know guys
And-
down there who like need opportunity and stuff like that, someone you can vouch for, we'll put them on a show. We'll figure it out.
I think anyone we can get up here too, that's especially willing like you to give us advice.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest thing I think all of us can ask for.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, you know how we are. You saw the show last night. We need help.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Like,
No, it was good, but yeah, it could be
you-
better.
No, you know what I mean. Like,
We've got a good audience and we're all real raw. So I mean,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that's about the best case you can get. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
so yeah, man. I appreciate you coming up here doing this and talking with us. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, fuck yeah, bud. Sweet. Well, let's wrap it up there. Thanks again to Korey David, Jared Morrow. I'm Kyle.
Boo.
All right. Good night, you fucks.